So with organic ingredients, you can trace each one back to the farm and the plot that it was on. And so all of that makes it more expensive, and the lack of cheaper pesticides also makes it more expensive. You also can't do certain things to the land, and you have to verify that you're not doing that.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the WBS Podcast. I'm Sam Gupta, your host and principal consultant at digital transformation consulting firm Elevate IQ. SMB manufacturers and distributors in the personal care industry face unique challenges. These difficulties could be even more for organic products or the items that need to comply with FDA, such as sunscreens. They need to ensure enough demand for new products or struggle to find contract manufacturers and labs that will accept the lower batches of order. Also, since credibility is vital for brands in this industry, the source of ingredients and the ability to have end-to-end traceability is critically important. In today's episode, we have our guest, Erin Williams, who discusses the manufacturing and commercialization processes of the personal care industry. She also discusses why organic products require stringent procedures and what makes them more expensive. Finally, she has had a chance to discuss the quality and audit processes and the responsibility and liabilities of each party involved. Let me introduce Erin to you. Erin Williams started out as a NYC makeup artist doing fashion week and ad campaigns, but wanted more purpose in her life, so her beauty brand, Erin's Faces, was born. With a mission of educating, empowering, and including, she has built her business from working alone in her second bedroom in Queens to a fully staffed facility. Erin's Faces is independently owned and funded. With that, let's get to the conversation. Hey, welcome to the show, Erin.
Thank you so much, Sam. I'm so happy to be with you this morning.
And I'm super excited to discuss as well because, as you know, my favorite topic is beauty. Can you believe this?
I know, it's so on brand for you. It's perfect.
I know.
Indie beauty, grassroots, small.
Man is talking about beauty. Just to kick things off, do you want to start with your personal story and your current focus?
Yeah, so I grew up in Texas, went to school for theater, moved to New York City to be on Broadway. In the meantime, got jobs at makeup and skincare counters in between shows, started doing that professionally on an editorial capacity, and then really wanted to be of service more. So I started my company, Erin's Faces, which is a cruelty-free company that focuses on organic and clean skincare, makeup, and body care. And it started in my second bedroom in Queens. And now we are out of my house, which is very exciting. And we have been for a little while. And yeah, now it's my full-time job and we employ other people. And it's, that's the nutshell version.
Okay, that's amazing. And obviously, we are very excited about growth here. So that is going to be my next question.
Yeah.
What is your perspective on growth?
I don't think it was a super intelligent choice to go into the beauty industry because there's so much competition. You've got LVMH, L'Oreal, Estee Lauder, and they have billions of dollars for marketing. So it's a really hard market to get into. But it's a huge industry. Like the United States spends so much money. Women spend so much money on beauty. So I think that I really started with my friends and family, and made, I think, $30,000 the first year. It was not a lot of money. And then it slowly, very slowly in the beginning, just started to snowball. And then we had rapid growth in the middle. Then it kind of slowed down, and now we're back to some significant growth, gratefully, through COVID, because I think we're an e-commerce focused business, and that has really served us in the last year. So, I mean, I can talk to you about our journey, but that's the short story for growth for us.
Okay, amazing. So let's talk about the manufacturing process. And I don't know if you were familiar with the manufacturing process before you
Yeah.
started this business. So that must be a little bit of learning for you, right? So
Yeah,
describe to
everything was
me,
learning.
yeah, so describe to me how the manufacturing process works in case of a beauty product. So let's say if I want to create a new product, it could
Uh-huh.
be under existing brand or it could be the newer company. So if you are walking me through the manufacturing process, describe to me different operations that are involved in the manufacturing process, and then what are the kind of materials that are being used and the machines. So the I'm looking for the entire manufacturing process.
Yeah, well, I'll be honest. The first step for me starts with talking to my clients,
Yeah.
which probably isn't, I don't know if that's what you're interested in hearing, but that's the truth because if they won't buy it, then making it is a waste of time and money, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, being a small brand, I knew all of our clients in the beginning and they were friends and family. That's how it was. And so I really had worked as a makeup artist and skincare person for years. So I had literally listened to what women wanted every day for 15 years without knowing that I had this focus group going the whole time for my brand that I didn't know I was going to build. So that really informed things. And then when we add new products, we definitely poll our clients. We literally poll our clients. We send out emails. We do it on Facebook, Instagram, do polls with people. And even if, no matter how big your clientele is, it can be small or big, but if you just ask them what they're interested in, that will really guide you. And then for us, then it goes to formulation, and you have to have a chemist that you really trust, and you gotta kiss a
Yeah.
few frogs sometimes before
Yeah.
you find your chemist. And then you have to decide how clean, quote unquote, clean or not you want your ingredients to be, what standard you want to hold those to, what call out ingredients you want. And then you basically go back and forth with them until you love it. And generally, part of you loving it is having your people try it and, get other opinions on it as well. And then you have to find packaging for it, which can be a very challenging thing if you're a smaller company because MOQs for most sustainable packaging, which is where the lane that we're in, are 25,000 pieces. And for smaller indie brands, 25,000 is a lot. For a lot of your podcast guests, that's nothing. But this is your indie series, Sam, that you're doing right now. So that can make it challenging, but you work with a production, person who can work with you on that. You get your graphic designer to do stuff. You get a production artist to make sure everything is there. If you want to sell it in Europe or Canada, you need a compliance officer so that everything that you're doing is correct on your boxes and your product itself, which is why a lot of stuff is in French on your cosmetic or personal care products because that's what's required, overseas. And then you get to actually make it, and then you get to fill it. And we work with labs, so we don't actually have the machines that do that work ourselves. We work with labs and they have the machinery to do that, and then they fill it. And then you get it either to your warehouse or to your distribution warehouses, and then it goes out into the world.
Okay, amazing. So you mentioned one of the term called MOQ, and some of the listeners might not be familiar with that. So what is the importance of MOQ and why that matters? Can you describe that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a minimum order quantity. And so, for instance, 25,000 minimum order quantity. So you would have to order 25,000 pieces of whatever that was. And generally, it can be, if you have different products, they're called SKUs. And so sometimes they want you to have 25,000 pieces per SKU. Sometimes they'll break it up. So if you have a lipstick, let's say, and you want them all to be different packaging, each color has its own packaging, then you would have to order 25,000 pieces of each color. And as a small brand, that's tough. So you tend to use the same packaging, fill it with something different, and maybe change the box. So your boxes can be different. You can have little stickers on the bottom that say the color. There are people who will work with you for less than 25,000, but you got to go fishing. you know what I mean, to find them.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Okay, amazing. So tell me a little bit about your interaction with the lab, right? So you mentioned that you
yeah,
don't have the internal machines and you are
right,
utilizing lab for that. So
right.
which are the processes that you have outsourced and which are the processes that you are keeping internally? So is your production completely outsourced? You are working with a contract manufacturer, or are you working with internally some of these parts and rest of them you are outsourcing?
Yeah, we do both. So for most of our makeup items, it's contract manufacturing and they do start to finish for us. I mean, that said, they don't do our design work. I work with a graphic artist and a production artist for that, but they fill everything, box it up, put the color labels on, and do all of that. For our skincare, we tend to fill it in-house. So we'll get it in bulk, 5, 10 gallons, up to 25 gallons or 45, depending on the product. And we will fill it in-house, depending on how large the product is, an 8-ounce or a 1-ounce item. Because some of the products require like a 25 or 50-gallon fill to be filled at the lab.
Yeah,
And we may not be able to move a 1-ounce item that quickly to do a 25-gallon fill. So we have to fill it ourselves in order to have a product that hasn't rotted on the shelf, just to be
yeah,
honest about it. And I want our people to have fresh things that will not expire immediately. So I would rather buy the gallons, have our team fill them. And in that case, they come to us pretty much done and we fill it. We put the, top on and we put the label on by hand. And so you've got a very like hands-on part of our business, and then
yeah.
we've got a very hands-off part of our business. And it's really about the minimums. Again, it comes down to what people are requiring you to do with the minimums. We do have a few products that we make soup to nuts in-house,
Yeah.
but those as we grow are becoming less and less of a thing. We're starting to outsource that more because we just don't have, as I said, the machinery or the capacity to do that en masse without it taking over our entire operations for like a week. And we can't do it at a certain point. So that slowly is starting to move over to lab manufacturing.
Okay, so let's talk about the customer interaction since you mentioned that that's
Yeah.
key to your business, right? So are these
Yeah.
customers committing to the product before you build them, or you are first producing and then finding the customer? So how does that interaction work?
Yeah, so we have a really close connection to our clients. We have a Facebook group, which is really helpful, and we intentionally foster a really close sense of community with our clients. So we hear from them whether we
Yeah.
ask them or not. And so we don't build things and like pre-sell them. We don't do that. We basically say, what do you think about this or this or this? Or I just know that I want to do something and we're going to do it because I know they'll like it because I know them. But if I'm not sure, I'll ask them. And then we make it. And then we just offer it up. And it's fun because they feel like they've been involved in the process because they have. And then they really show up for you when it's launch day. We didn't have mascara, for instance, in our line for a long time. And Sam, ladies like mascara.
Yeah,
And
they do.
it's a very popular item. And so we didn't have one in our line for 9 years because I was super picky and I didn't like any of the formulas that I was working with the labs. We finally nailed it down. My clientele has known this the whole time. And through the year before we launched it, I would drop these little tidbits on Instagram, on Facebook, in emails, being like, you guys, it's coming. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I can't wait to share it with you. And then it got to be the pandemic.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to launch it in April of 2020, and it just felt inappropriate. And so I polled my people, which is what I do. And I said, does this feel, nobody wants this, right? Like this is tacky and we shouldn't do that. And they were all like, give me mascara now. I need something that isn't canceled. And as a result, our month in April of 2020 was up 290% to the year before, which is hard to top. I got to tell you, in 2021. But I think that was a big, there were a lot of things happening that contributed to that. But part of it was they knew the journey, and that's the kind of brand we are. And that's the kind of client we attract. Someone who wants to feel included and someone that wants something that's just going to work and happens to be clean. So does that answer your question?
It does. And in fact, I am going to dig further into that because even though you answered the question, but I'm going to have some more clarifications there. When you say you have the Facebook group, I assume that these are going to be the consumers that are really utilizing these products. So
Right.
You are really working with the consumers directly. You are not working with some of the retail outlets that are selling your product. Is that assumption correct or not?
No, that's correct. We don't have a big wholesale business. We are primarily D2C. Our wholesale has started to grow in the last bit of time, but we're definitely e-commerce, D2C. Those people are my bread and butter. So that's who I want to talk to.
Okay, amazing. So I'm a little bit confused about the formulation process. So you mentioned that when you have the clients, right? So you have slightly more collaboration going on there, right? So basically you are doing your kind of the focus groups in your Facebook community where you are consulting with them. Okay, I have some ideas for the new product. Hey guys, what do you think? I mean, would you guys like to utilize this? And if they say yes, then you are sort of thinking that, no, I've done my customer surveys and now I feel confident that I should be building this because somebody is going to be there to buy. So when you do this process, are you sharing the formulation? Are you sharing the recipe with your customers? How does that interaction work? Or are you simply working with the influencers?
Generally not. I have very strong opinions about what I want to do, just to be honest. And I, having worked in makeup for a really long time in skincare, I have strong opinions. It's more, I knew they'd want mascara, so I didn't even ask them. But for instance, it was March last year and you couldn't find alcohol and you couldn't find aloe vera. And I said, do you want a hand sanitizer? And they were like, yeah, we do. And then a couple months later, I was like, do you want a hand soap? And they were like, not really. And I said, okay. So it's basic general questions like that. And then I go to work on, that's why I'm here, because I know what I think is good. And so I know what I know. And then I work with a lab because they know what they know because they're the chemistry guys, right? And ladies. So basically it kind of takes do you want this? Yes, we do. And then I'm like, great, I'll let you know what's going on when I have it. And then it basically just comes out. But I get, does that answer your question?
It does. In fact, I want to dig sort of deeper into the overall the production process, right? So yes, from the customer service perspective, you did answer that you are involving them only at the surface level. You are not necessarily discussing the chemistry and you are asking their opinion because that could fire back if they don't know how chemistry works, right? So let's say if let's move to the production process. So obviously you are working with the lab and these are the people who are really sort of the expert of the ingredients. They are expert of when you want a specific product, then what is going to be come out of it? What is going to be the cost of ingredient? So when you work with the lab, so how does the interaction work? Are you telling them I'm looking for a soap and this is going to be the soap and these are going to be the ingredients that I'm looking for in the formulation, and then your lab is going to be doing the feasibility. They are going to be sharing the recipe, how the soap is going to work, and finally you are going to be working with the contract manufacturer who is actually going to be producing the good? Or tell me that flow or interaction from the feasibility perspective, also from the production perspective.
Yeah, so we tend to work with a chemist who is at our lab who is also a contract manufacturer. So it's all kind of in one situation for us, which makes it easier for us. So it happens to be a gentleman, and he is excellent at formulating clean products, which is the lane that we're in. So they do cost more because organic ingredients cost more, and I'm sure you'll talk about that in a second. So I tend to have a concept of a texture that I want, of particular ingredients that I want focused, that I want to be included. If it's a color item, meaning like a lipstick, a gloss, or a foundation or concealer, I have concepts of what colors I want to do. And then he makes something, and he makes a sample. And so I then try the sample at the lab. We tend to have to go back and forth a few times, and we might do it that day. I might be like, this is a little dry. I'd like it a little more hydrating. So then we could just go back and forth that day. And then eventually, whether it's that day or, another day, I go home with a sample that I like and I try it. And then if I like it, I'll give it to my team, and then we'll give feedback because inevitably someone doesn't like it. And so we give that feedback, and then the whole process basically starts over again. And you work on like one color. And then once you get it, then you work on all your other colors. But you're just going for the formula first to nail it down. And if it's a drug like a sunscreen, you've got to nail it down. And then you have to go through an incredible amount of testing. But that doesn't happen very much in personal care, but it does happen with hand sanitizers and sunscreens in particular.
So when you are interacting with the lab, are you simply telling that I need sunscreen, this is the texture that I'm looking for, and I don't know if there is going to be some sort of unit of measure for the texture because I don't know how that is measured, to be honest.
Yeah, so basically, like, I probably have one that I like. Like, you generally find stuff you like and you bring it in and you're like, whether it's a sunscreen or not, and you go, I really like this texture. This is what I want it to feel like. And when it's a color, you generally bring something in and you're like, I want to match this color, or I like this color, but I want it to be a little more pink, or I want it to have shimmer. So you tend to bring in tactile examples of things that they can literally see, feel, touch, smell, and then they have like a jumping off point. That's a good point. Yeah.
Okay, so basically you don't have any sort of communication tool there. You are bringing a real sample and then you are looking for some sort of variation because you feel that that variation is going to work with the consumers, just because even if you, let's say, change the texture of the product, and then that could be a big thing in the makeup industry. I'm simply making things up. I don't even know what it's there for, to be honest.
You're doing great. So yeah, for instance, we just launched a lip gloss, and I wanted it to feel like, or we're about to launch a lip gloss, and I wanted it to feel like a lip balm and a lipstick, like a sheer lipstick and a lip gloss had a baby. And if you're a lady, you know what that means. So basically, and he does this for a living, so he knows what that means. So I can say that combination of words and he's like, okay, I get it. And I don't have to bring anything in to show him. I can just be like, this is the texture that I want. And because I can talk about it in terms he understands, then he'll understand it if he is good at his job. And then if he shows me something, so he'll bring me a sample and I'll be like, I want it. This is a good start. What I'd like is now I'd like it to be a little more shiny, or I'd like it to be a little more oily. Like you just start kind of riffing off of your original sample. Does that help?
So yeah, it does. It does. So basically there's a little bit of, back and forth, obviously, until you get the sample that you are looking for, which is amazing because you have the customer collaboration going on, which is brilliant. But how does the sourcing work? So let's say once you decide that, okay, this is the formulation that I am really committing to. So does the lab share the formulation with you, that this is the formulation that I have worked on, the sample that you liked, and these are going to be ingredients. This is going to be the different amounts that all of the ingredients that we are going to be utilizing, and this is going to be the manufacturing process. So you mentioned that your lab is just one place, all right? I mean, see, they do your testing, they do your feasibility and formulation, and they also do the production. So are they the ones who are actually sourcing the materials as well, or are you the one who's sourcing materials?
Yeah, they don't do all the testing. Just for the record, you have to go get drugs tested somewhere else. Okay. But we work together on the sourcing of the ingredients. Sometimes I have a really strong opinion about where I want a call-out ingredient to come from. And so I will then reach out to that ingredient company and get it from them, and then we'll put it into the formula. But they work with big companies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we're a small fry for them. So if I need organic aloe juice and organic mango seed butter, like, they have that in the back. You know what I mean? So they have all of it unless I have something specific that I want.
So the backyard of these companies are going to look almost like bulk barn. And I don't know if you're familiar with that name. It's almost like a natural food shop.
It is. Yeah, they've got so many ingredients in the back. It's amazing. And they have like this room full of shimmer. You would love it, Sam. It's fantastic.
Okay, and obviously there's going to be some sort of chemicals as well. So there are going to be some safety standards that are going to be involved. So in your case, since you are not really touching these chemicals, you are not necessarily storing these chemicals in your warehouse because you are working with the lab and the contract manufacturer. So you don't necessarily touch those chemicals.
No, yeah. We have alcohol at our place because we make our cleansing everything else at their house, so to speak.
So let's talk about some of these organic products and inorganic products, right? So as we were discussing in the pre-show, the handling of the organic products could be completely different. I mean, obviously, they are going to be slightly more expensive. So tell us why the production of organic products is going to be different and why your competitors are not able to replicate the same things that you are doing for these organic products.
Oh, right. You asked if we have the formula. So sorry, I'm going back to what you asked earlier because I didn't answer it, and then I'll answer that. We have the option to buy the formula or not. And we are given the ingredient deck, which is like the ingredient list, because we are required to put it on the box. So they have to share that with us. Just to be honest, the industry is not hard to back into with figuring out an ingredient deck from someone else. It's literally a business. There are people who have formulas for Cetaphil's cleanser, which is a very popular drugstore cleanser, and you can make your own, and you can, so it is hard to have a proprietary thing, but I think that's what makes beauty interesting is it's who is speaking to you as a brand. So there's that. Organic versus inorganic, or non-organic. So it costs more because you're not allowed to use pesticides on your crops for the ingredients, and you have to prove it. You have to get paperwork signed that you're not. You have to track that. Let's talk about aloe. Let's say that's grown in Mexico. Let's pretend. So the aloe is grown in Mexico. The Mexican farm has to know exactly what plot of land it was on and verify what they used to grow it. And then let's say it gets handed to a distributor in Texas. Then that distributor has a record of when they received that particular crop of aloe. And then they hand it to my lab in New Jersey. My lab in New Jersey buys it. And so then that is a third chain, right? So with organic ingredients, you can trace each one back to the farm and the plot that it was on. And so all of that makes it more expensive. And the lack of cheaper pesticides also makes it more expensive. You also can't do certain things to the land, and you have to verify that you're not doing them.
So let's talk about the ingredients and the quality standards that you have in your industry. And you mentioned that they are fairly stringent, and you have to really sort of demonstrate that you are really providing the organic ingredients. And if you are not, then that's going to be not good for your brand, right? Because then consumers can come out in the public and they can talk about, even though Erin is claiming that, she has the most awesome product, probably it is not because I don't feel it. Okay. So now you have multiple handshakes involved here, right, in the process. So obviously you have the lab that is actually providing you the formula, and your assumption is going to be they are really good at what they are doing. So when they provided the formula and label, your assumption is going to be that whatever they said is probably going to be true. And then you have the testing organization that is actually making sure whatever label you are actually putting on the consumer product, it is certified and you are really true to what you have said. But then you have your in-house processes as well in terms of the packaging and filling, right? So in some cases, things might, let's say, fall in the cracks, right? So
they might, they don't. I mean, to be clear, we don't work with people who have things that fall in the cracks, and we don't do that here. So the challenge is, it is not the only things that are checked for the ingredient decks legally in the United States are drugs. So if I make a lip gloss and I tell you what's in it, then you just kind of have to trust me.
Okay.
That's the hard part. And that's why, to me, and who you see, you go look at their ingredients, you watch them make it. You know what I mean? Like that's why I chose a lab in New Jersey. I can show up on their doorstep and I source ingredients and I know if the bag is empty or not, and I go check. And so I think all that's really important. And here, when we make stuff here and when we fill stuff here, my integrity and the integrity of my team is very important to me. And so none of that has ever been questioned because we haven't. That's the short answer.
Yeah, and it's not really, I mean, they are purposely doing it. Sometimes it could be the processes or the communication or the handshake. It could be so many different things that could go on. Because end of the day, this is a complex process, right? And not everybody is going to be, right now, you are controlling the entire process. But let's say if you had 100 employees and they were not equally trained, then
no,
you could run into
true.
issues, right?
Well, and it's interesting, when we were sourcing alcohol for the cleansing gel for hands that we make, a guy who I had bought ethanol from said, hey, I have ethanol. It has a little bit of methanol in it, but I don't know, there's a dermatologist who's going to use it for hand sanitizer, so I think you'll be fine. And I was like, I don't know about that. And I did a quick Google search and it was like,
Yeah.
phenol kills people. And I wrote him back and I was like, such and such, you cannot sell this and this was before all of that came out. This is when everyone, like, alcohol was impossible to find in April of last year, right? So I think people just didn't know. And so I think people thought they were buying the right thing. But I think you have to. I was like, I have a theater major and I know that this isn't correct. You know what I mean? Like, I have a theater degree, and I know that this isn't correct. So this guy is a dermatologist and he's putting methanol in his stuff. Get it together. He's just trying to make money. And that's when I think integrity comes into question. And who are you serving, yourself or your people? And I want to serve my people.
Yeah. So I want to touch about the testing organization that you mentioned, right? So what is the role of the testing organization? You mentioned that, the testing is not necessarily involved, but then there is a testing entity that is actually testing the product. So what are they testing and what are they certifying?
So for us specifically, it's sunscreen, and they test you hear SPF 30, SPF 50. Yeah. They test if it actually is an SPF 30 or 50, whatever the number is. They have to verify that. They have to verify if it's UVA and UVB blocking. If it is water resistant, you can't say waterproof anymore. You have to do tests for water resistancy. You have to do, if that's a word, mold tests, stability tests. So all of that happens with drugs. That doesn't happen with like foundation, powder, stuff like that. It doesn't happen with that. But it does happen with sunscreens, which are a huge part of the personal care industry.
Okay, and who is really mandating this?
The FDA requires you to do it. If you are going to, if you're making a medical claim, if you're making a claim that this will prevent a sunburn, that this will stop sun damage, then you are making a medical claim. And as such, you have to list your active ingredients at the top. That's why sunscreen bottles look like a drug, like your cold medicine on the back. It's weird. And so there's active ingredients, and then there's quote unquote inactive ingredients.
How do they track, which company is producing
what?
And what is going on different shelves?
Yeah, so the lab has to be certified as an FDA certified facility.
Okay.
And then you as a company basically have to fill out the paperwork and provide the testing results and everything to the FDA in order to get your product approved and okay to sell.
And on the product, are you going to say that it is FDA certified? Do you have to put that?
No, you don't have to, because by putting SPF on the product and by having active ingredients on the back, you are making a claim. So that is, now could you do that and not go through all those steps?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at a certain point, if you get big enough, they're going to know and they're going to be like, I don't have them on my list. What's going on? And they'll come and check you out.
Okay, This has been an amazing conversation, Erin. Thank you so much. You are super passionate about what you do. So do you have any last-minute closing thoughts by any chance?
I just think that, I'm so glad. I'm so happy that you brought me on. I know you tend to have big, fancy people on. So I think it's lovely to get perspectives from a little more grassroots perspective. And I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
And my personal takeaway from this conversation is going to be beauty people are super humble. Obviously, you are super big, Erin.
Oh, you're nice.
Okay, amazing. So on that note, I really want to thank you for your time. This has been fun.
Thank you so much, Sam. I hope you go buy some moisturizer for yourself somewhere. Get into your beauty self.
I cannot thank our guests enough for coming on the show, for sharing their knowledge and journey. I always pick up learnings from our guests, and hopefully you learned something new today. If you want to learn more about Erin or Erin's Faces, head over to erinsfaces.com. It's ERINSFACES.com or Erin's Faces on Instagram. Links and more information will also be available in the show notes. If anything in this podcast resonated with you and your business, you might want to check other related episodes, including the interview with Dave Hadrich, who describes the role gears play in our society. Also, the interview with Matt Goose from MRS Machining, who discusses the challenges associated with manufacturing complex parts in short runs. Also, don't forget to subscribe and spread the word among folks with similar backgrounds. If you have any questions or comments about the show, Please review and rate us on your favorite podcasting platform or DM me on any social channels. I'll try my best to respond personally and make sure you get help. Thank you, and I hope to catch you on the next episode of the WBS podcast.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.